Traffic tickets. I hate getting them. And so today I'm going to show you how to fight them in the state of California and win. And we're going to do this with a method that a lot of people aren't familiar with called the trial by written declaration. And it's a great method because you don't have to step foot in a courthouse. It's stressful for a lot of people who are busy. Maybe they have work, school, children. And so today I'm going to show you guys how to do a trial by written declaration in the state of California. And maybe you can do it in your state as well, because some states do allow for trials by written declaration. And I'll show you towards the end of the video how to find out whether or not you have that option in your state. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Google, and we are going to type trial by written declaration California. And there, the first link that comes back is the TR-205 request for trial by written declaration. So let's click that. And when you get inside, you're going to see that you have to fill out the name of the court, the address, and the name. And all of that stuff appears on the bottom of your ticket, usually on the back side. And you're just going to go ahead with a pen and write in all that info. For the defendant field, you're going to put your own name. And all the stuff A through E is on your ticket. The date that's on the ticket for when you need to appear in court is the due date. The bail amount required would be the amount for a ticket. Like for a jaywalking ticket, it's probably about $100, I think. Seatbelt ticket's closer to $200. Cell phone ticket as well. So you're going to put in the bail amount. You're going to hear and see. You're going to put the amount that you're enclosing in the ticket, because that's one of the catches. You have to send a check out with your trial request form, and usually between 2 and 4 weeks later you receive a decision. And if you won, you get back the same amount in the form of a check from the courthouse. And I've done this about 5 or 6 times for friends and family and even college professors, and yeah, I usually win. So I'm batting about 5 out of 6 right now, and it's a pretty useful procedure here that I'm about to show you guys. I hope it helps you. So, over here you have field number 5. If you have any supplemental information, like a diagram that you can sketch out, maybe like a photograph that you can take that would support your case, that's great. Go ahead and check the boxes that you might be using. In my case, I don't have that, so I'm going to uncheck these boxes. Usually I just go to step number 6, which is on the second page, and that's the declaration of facts. And this declaration of facts is basically just you writing out why you think you are not guilty for the citation, why you shouldn't be cited for the infraction. So, just use your imagination. Let's say you got a cell phone ticket. Say the officer thought I was on a cell phone. I wasn't really on a cell phone. I was just taking it off the charger because it fell in my lap while I was driving, creating a hazardous condition for safe driving. Let's say jaywalking. The officer thought you were jaywalking. You weren't really jaywalking. You were on the side of the curb, and you dropped your keys. You went to go pick them up, and you didn't really get in traffic, so the officer believes he saw you jaywalking. You don't recall it. But remember, if the officer has you on camera doing it, you're going to want to tailor your response to kind of fit with the evidence that the officer may have. But just keep this in mind. When an officer has to appear in court because you fight a ticket, but not through the trial by declaration, but actually by going to the courthouse, that officer is receiving overtime compensation. So it is a huge incentive for the officer to show up at the courthouse. That's a really big incentive for the officer to come out and fight you. But when you issue a trial by written declaration, you see, these are less common. A lot of officers are not familiar with how to contest that, because the way it works is you send in your form saying why you shouldn't get the ticket, and within a certain amount of time the officer has to send in his form to fight your form. That's part of the way this thing works. And oftentimes officers don't want to do that because they're not compensated for it. It's just more paperwork that piles up on the desk. And you'd be surprised. More often than not, I think the officers don't know how to contest trials by written declaration because it's fairly uncommon procedure that we have access to. The courthouses don't exactly advertise this, but that would really cut into some of the state revenues if everybody was fighting their tickets by written declaration and getting off. The only catch being you have to send in a check for the bail amount. So right here in the statement of facts, I just write out, whatever kind of convincing argument I could make to tell the officer, hey, to tell the judge, I'm not responsible. But one thing that I will give you a big tip on is not to make the officer look bad. Say, I believe the officer was mistaken in his judgment and he didn't act out of line or she didn't act inappropriately, but let me explain why I am innocent for these charges. Because the thing is, we're working with incentives here, folks. And if we tell the judge that the officer is doing a bad job, the officer, is heinously wrong and guilty of, giving people tickets for no reason, that's going to make the officer look really bad in front of the judge, in front of his bosses, and we don't want to give the officer any incentive to combat us. So if the officer has a piece of paper on his desk saying, oh yeah, I think he was mistaken in his judgment, doesn't say anything bad about the officer, he might let it go. But if you say this officer was drunk, he's a coward, he doesn't know what he's doing, he shouldn't be on the job, or she, that gives the officer a whole lot of incentive to come after you. So my biggest advice to people when doing a trial by written declaration is speak very sensibly of the officer. Try not to push any buttons. Try not to aggravate the officer and give them any reason to respond. You're going to try to let this thing go into the courthouse smooth, quietly, and the goal is no response, because that's really how you're winning. You're not winning based on the statement of facts. You're winning with the hopes that the other officer who cited you in the first place is not going to respond. And so it's a win by default, because only one side represents its case and the other side doesn't. But for the statement of facts, you're going to want to be very clear, very specific on why you think you shouldn't get the ticket. You could even say something like, I wasn't jaywalking. I pressed the button on the machine 1,000 times. It wouldn't go. And so I had to make it there. I couldn't just sit on the intersection all day long. Something must have been wrong with that. That's probably a little bit more difficult to prove. The cell phone example that I gave you earlier, it fell down in my lap. I didn't want it, falling under the pedal, and then, next thing I know, my pedal's, pedal to the metal because the phone's jamming it somehow, and now I took out a whole innocent family and some old people. So, you want to word it professionally as you can, but you want to give yourself some kind of a reason for why you shouldn't pay the ticket. And then, the whole goal being you're going to win by default. So go ahead, once you're done with this form, you just mail it to the address along with your check. Wait about 2 to 4 weeks for hopefully what's good news. And like I said, more often than not, it's paid off for me. So one last thing, if you live in a different state and you want to see if you have the option of filing a trial by written declaration, pull out your ticket that you just got and look at the back of the ticket. You find the courthouse phone number there. Go ahead and call the courthouse. You'll be connected to a person, hopefully, a clerk, and then just ask the clerk, can I file a trial by written declaration in this state? And they'll tell you right off the bat, yes or no. If they say yes, then ask them what form do I need to fill out. They can pretty much tell you where to find it on the internet. Or the goal is not to go to court, because if you're anything like me, you hate going to the courthouse. You don't want to step a foot inside. You got to wait outside, wait inside, wait some more in the courtroom. It's just terrible. So to get around that, we got to do trials by written declaration, folks. That's the only choice we have. So if you like this video, please go ahead and comment in the comments section. I'm not super experienced, but I've done this about 5 or 6 times here now, so it's a great method for getting out of tickets. But yeah, if you like this video, want to see more like it, please hit the comments below, subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch you guys around later. Good luck fighting your tickets.